What's up guys, and welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to take a look over the latest plan sets that I've just finished putting together, and that is for a boat called Temptress. If you haven't seen any of my other videos on plan sets, Temptress is an all new wooden construction 24-foot runabout designed by Michel Berryer. So this is the first of the completely new boat designs that I've put together in kit form. So Michel handles the design side of the entire boat structure, and then he passes it over to me and I do all the kitting, which basically gets the boat ready to build, including all the frame jointing, all the alignment systems and jigs, and putting together the drawings so that there's nice clear instructions on how you can build one. So let's jump into the computer and we'll take a look at what's included with this new plan set. So starting off with the basic look around the boat then. Temptress is a 24-foot runabout, and it's shown just here with an empty cockpit. So they're going to have a set of plans for the main boat structure, and then there's two different cockpit arrangements which you can choose your plan set for and do either of the two cockpits that we've designed, or you can put your own cockpit in there and change things to how you would like it. That's part of one of the benefits to building your own boat, is that you can do things the way that you want to. So that's a basic look around the boat. It's a kind of barrel back styled boat, and it's got these really nice S-shaped swept sides which just add a beautiful shape to the boat. Really nice looking bit of kit this. And we've got a raised deck in the center as well, which just adds a nice bit more shape to the deck and gives some extra height for the engine hatch areas. So we started to get into the construction then, and I'll get the deck off so you can see what's going on underneath there. So here you can see the deck structure. So we've got covering boards that form the lower part of the deck, and then this raised coaming, and then the higher part of the deck in the center there. So if we look into the construction of the hull then, this is a cold molded boat, which means that everything is done with thin layers of wood veneers in opposing directions to give a really strong, stable construction to the skins of the boat. So we'll take off the outer layers of that and you can see what's going on underneath there. So we've got longitudinal planking on this boat. If you want a planked finish to the side, you could also paint the top sides on this boat, so you could do diagonal planking on the outer layers. That's not a problem. We'll take the top side planking off, and then you can see the diagonal planking layers underneath that. So these can be done internally with plywood, and the outer planking can be done with solid wood if you so wish. And then we'll take the side off, and then you can see the top side batten layout that runs through all the framework. Then let's take a look at the bottom construction. So again, we'll open up the starboard bottom. So the bottom is all diagonal planking, and there's 4 layers that make up this. So the bottom on this is 1 inch thick, 4 layers of 1/4 inch veneers. So we'll take off the outer layer, and then you can see we've got opposing directions at roughly 45 degrees. You'll have to change the planking angle slightly as you come forward, just for the best lay of the planks. But as a whole, generally they'll be planked to 45 degrees. And then layer 3, layer 2, and then we'll take off layer 1 so we can see the construction underneath. So onto the chines then. So there's chine flats on this boat design. They're formed by a really clever construction that Michel's came up with, and that is layers of marine plywood. So what we have here is the edge set on the chine curve is cut into the shape of the plywood components, which are cut on the CNC. And then the spring, which is the curve in this direction in the chines, is created by the lamination of 3 layers of plywood built up together. So you can see here that we've got 3 plywood layers that make up this chine. And then you've got staggered joints which are held together with a dovetail system that you can see here. The bottom of that chine flat has a slight cap on it there, which just catches the bottom planking as that comes down and lands onto the chine there. And there's a top cap which also supports the top side of that, along with the top side battens that then support the top sides. So then we'll take the chines away and you can start to see the framework construction that we've got here. And then the stringers as well. And then the keel, so the keel is a laminated section. All of the sections of this boat that are laminated are shown in the model as differing timbers. And the reason for that is just to help to clearly illustrate where you've got laminations and roughly the thickness that we recommend for the timbers in those instances. So we've got a laminated keel here, and then you can see that runs into a laminated stem as well. So it's a single piece stem that runs from frame 3 right up to the top of the stem there at the bow, and then a laminated keel that runs the full length of the boat with a strengthener section aft which carries the rudder mountings, the prop shaft holes and the prop shaft strut. And then we've got the two main stringers that run the full length of the boat from the transom up to frame 2. That ties all the frames in together and forms the engine mounts, and is just generally a huge strong laminated beam that runs the full length of the boat. So a huge amount of strength induced there. And we'll drop back to that and the stem in a minute, and we'll have a little look at the jigs that form those laminations, because those parts are made off the boat and then introduced to the boat further down the line. So I'll show you how those are done. We'll just get rid of those for a second. Okay, so we get on to framework then, and the framework is done in much the same way that my other boat plans have been done, if you've seen the way that I do those. So all the frame components are CNC cut, and they've got joint systems that help you to align the frame components and keep everything square and true during assembly. So we've adopted the same practice with this boat. It's slightly more involved because it's a much more thoroughly designed boat, far better than some of the old modernized plans that I've done before. So let's take a look at a typical frame, and we'll strip that down. So a lot of the frames have a bulkhead on one side, and in that instance they'll have gussets on the opposing side. In the instance that they don't have bulkheads, you've got gussets on both sides of the frames. So we'll take those back so we can see what's going on underneath there. Okay, so looking at a typical frame then, we've got the same sort of jointing system that we've used before. So we've got these self-locating knuckle joints, which are quite common practice within CNC work. They just really help for alignment more than anything else. They give you a little bit of extra glue surface area in the joint as well, but it just helps you to positively locate all of these parts when you're constructing the frames. So all of the parts are engraved with their part numbers, which are referenced in the drawing files, which we'll look at in a bit. So most of the frames consist of bottoms, sides, deck beams, and then these chine fillers, which form extra material for strengthening the frames in the chine region. So all of those align with self-locating joints, as you can see there. And then we have the same in the keel as well, so there's a keel filler on most of the frames. So that's a look at your pretty typical frame that we're using. Then we've got the frame construction board. So this is the same system that I've used in my other boat plans, if you've seen those as well. We'll take a look at how that differs slightly with Temptress. So the frames with Temptress, of course, are quite a bit bigger than the frames that have been in any of my boat plans before. So with this construction board, we've got a 2-board system. So the two of them join with this dovetail down the center. So that's just 2 CNC cut 8x4 sheets that slot together. And then most of the rest of it is pretty much the same as what we've done before. Okay, so this is how a typical frame will be set up on the construction board. So we've got dowels that actually go through the frames. So that differs slightly to a method that we've used before. The previous designs located with dowels within the cutouts of the frames. The frames on this boat have got very few cutouts done at the CNC stage, because we decided that it was generally better to do those cutouts once the boat is framed and assembled on the Strongback, to cut those battens for the top sides and the shears in when the boat is set up on the frame, so that they can be beveled as you go. The problem with cutting those at the CNC stage is that they end up as square cutouts, which then have to be beveled, and sometimes they're beveled in 2 directions. so it becomes quite difficult to do that at CNC stage, and it always really needs to be finished off by eye anyway. So what we've done with these frames is we've left a lot of those cutouts to be done at the setup stage once the boat's on the Strongback. So they've only got a handful of the major cutouts in them, which are for the chine flats and for the keel, to help you set those up on the boat when it comes to it. So these are aligned with dowels that go through the frames. The other benefits of that is that it allows you to locate parts and then slide them in from the side, as opposed to pushing items down onto the board. So it prevents you from shearing the epoxy from the joint as you put them together. You can push the joint together in this direction and keep the glue in the joint where it should be, as opposed to scraping it off as you push parts down. So this dowel system allows for that. And it's much the same again, so you've got numbered dowel holes for each frame component, and they correspond to holes that are in the frames, which help you to get that set up and make sure that all the frames are nice and square and true. The primary difference with the method that we've gone for here is in the Strongback system. So there's a much more thorough Strongback system used with Temptress, and that is in the form of these legs that run right from the bottom frames through the deck beams and down into the Strongback. So those are just done with strips of particle board or MDF that are ripped into 3-inch wide strips, and then they're fixed to the frame at this stage on the frame construction board. So there are a couple of dowels that help you to locate those. There are two important dimensions to consider at this stage, and that is the outer edge of this of the Strongback leg, which corresponds to the main run of the two Strongback beams. So there are two dowels that are inserted into the board, and then you just push that leg up into those dowels, screw it to the frame, and then you're correctly positioned for when it comes to putting it on the Strongback. Once that's done and the frame is still located with the dowels, you then need to mark the position of waterline 1. This waterline here is a really important line which we use to then set the height of these frames within the Strongback system. So once that's fixed in place, that gets marked onto the Strongback legs and then used for setup. So that is primarily the differences that are in the frame construction board versus ones that I've used before. Pretty much the same principle, but a few kind of refinements to the design and things that we've had to accommodate just to change things slightly from what I've used before. So then let's take a look at how the boat actually looks completely set up on the Strongback. Okay, so this is how the boat looks when it's set up on the Strongback system. So you can see those legs there that we just looked at, and how they get positioned on the frame construction board, and that corresponds to a rung on the Strongback system, and those are then leveled by sliding that leg up and down the rung and using the waterline 1 mark that we put in here, which you can see running down the frames, and that will be set up with a laser level to make sure that everything is true. So the stem is then positioned in a similar way, and that uses this piece that you can see here, and this is actually an offcut from the mould that is used to laminate the stem. So the stem is laminated off the boat on a large mould. That mould is then trimmed down, and that then forms a Strongback leg, which helps to correctly position the stem within the Strongback system. So let's get rid of that and we'll take a look at the jig that is used to laminate the stem. So this is the full stem mould then. So this is what we start out with when we laminate the stem off the boat. And you can see that this contains an overrun, so you can use longer stock to overrun off the edges, which is then cleaned up post lamination before it goes onto the boat. And this mould contains trim lines for the end of where the stem finishes and the locations of each of the frames as well. So these can be transposed onto the stem before it's put into the boat, which is quite helpful. So what this jig gets cut down to is this frame 1 line. So you trim this down to frame 1, and then when it's installed in the boat, this jig butts up to the face of frame 1 and also uses your waterline 1 mark, which you can see there, and then fits into the Strongback. So we then use that same principle to laminate the stringers off the boat as well. So those are done first and then introduced to the boat and notched and beveled once the frames are inserted into them. So let's take a look at that as well. So here we go, again, same principle as the lamination jig for the stem. You can see that these jigs also contain the trim marks and locations of each frame, so that these can be transposed over to the stringers once they've been laminated and used for marking the location of the bevel notches. So that's our stringers. There are various other jigs and things included with the plan set, such as a construction frame for building the transom. So in order to build the curve in the transom, there is this construction jig included, which enables you to laminate the frames and the inner skin of the transom as well. So that's all done in place there, and all of that is detailed within the drawing file. So that's pretty much everything covered from the model and roughly what's included with the jigs and setup of the boat. Let's take a look at what else actually comes with the plan sets. Okay, so there are 2 step models included with the plan sets, and one of those displays all of the jigs and setup, as you can see here. So we've got the frame construction board that's illustrated, and the transom jigs, the stringer jigs, the stem jigs, and the entire Strongback system. So these are .step files, so they will be able to be imported into most CAD programs and quite easily read and measured and determined. So if there's anything that you need to look at within the construction of the boat, this is a really nice clear way to do that and just to confirm what everything's going to be. And then there's also a step model, which is the finished boat. So this illustrates all of the planking layouts that we recommend that you do, and the deck and all of the structure of the boat is included with that one. Each of the parts are individually nested into DXF files. So again, this is done exactly the same as how I've done my plan sets before. So you get DXF outlines of every CNC cut component within the boat, and these are in layered DXF files that have the holes and the text, the part profiles and the bounding box for the whole thing on separate layers. So it's nice and easy to cleanly put that into whatever software you might be using or your company might be using that are CNC cutting this for you if you're getting it done by somebody else. So every DXF is within a bounding box, and the dimension of that bounding box is down in the bottom corner, so that you can make sure that when you import that into your software, you can select all of those items and just double check that the size of that bounding box matches the size that is written down in the bottom corner. If you get that correct, and that is very important on your importing stage, then everything within that bounding box will also be the correct proportions and the correct size. Then to finish things up, we have the drawing file. So this is a 12-sheet document of detailed drawings and instructions that tell you how to build the boat and run through what process to do things in. So that starts off with just a general arrangement, which is this sheet here, and these are all A0 drawings, so these can be printed on a really nice large size and put up on the wall of your workshop so that you can work from them and see where everything should go and how it goes together. So we start with a general arrangement drawing there, and then we go on to the frames. So all of the frames are detailed here, so you can see the exact construction of every frame, and you've got parts lists and balloons that identify all of the different parts. There's some explanations there for the frame construction board and how that system works. So every frame is detailed within these. There's then an explanation of the transom construction and how that gets made, formed within the mould that's there. Then onto the Strongback system, so you've got dimensioning here for all the rungs within the Strongback system, and some illustrations of how that's set up and how all of the parts are aligned and positioned within that. Then we're on to our stringer jigs that we looked at before, so it tells you how those are set up on the moulds, how they're created, and then onto the stem lamination as well. Also some descriptions of the keel lamination, which is done onto the boat. Then we're on to the chines. So the chines, as I say, are formed from 3 layers of 12mm ply, which are sprung into place on the boat, and using those chine cutouts within the frames to form the spring that is in the curvature of the chine there. Then we go on to topside battens. So this shows you the installation of the topside battens following on from the chines. And then we're on to planking. So there's illustrations here of all the layers of planking and how they go together, how they should be sized and how they should be laid out. Then we've got a drawing of the deck structure. So this shows you all the different components that are included with the deck structure. As you can see, there's quite a few of them in that table. So there's a few bits of timber within the deck there. But this is all clearly demonstrated and shown how parts are notched into the various different battens and into the king plank as well. So all of that is illustrated within there. Then we go on to the engine hatch. So we show details of the engine hatch assembly and how that fits and is removed within the boat structure. And finally, we've got a timber cutting list. So this will give you your primary timbers for all of the major components within the boat and allow you to start to get some pricing together for how much it's going to cost you to build one. So there we go. That is a summary of everything that is included within the Temptress plan set and all of the changes that we've made and new developments that have happened to the plans since I last launched the set, which is quite a while ago now. But there's been a lot of development work in this boat, a lot of time spent on it. And I'm hoping that this is a really nice, thorough plan set that will make this boat achievable for a much wider range of people, given that this is designed to the standards that would usually be only done by a professional yard. So we really hope that this is going to enable people to build some really serious modern wooden construction boats. So check out the link in the card above and in the description below if you'd like to go and have a look at the set of plans for Temptress, and if you'd like to buy them, they're available for digital download via my website. So check out the links and go and have a look at those. And let me know in the comments below what you think to the boat, and if you'd like to build one, or if you've got any suggestions for things that we should maybe look at rolling out as we do various other boats within this same kind of process for design and kitting. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers guys.